Satisfactory is a game about how much nothing you can do. So, how does a game make doing nothing feel so good? Well, first we have to define what nothing means in this context. So, let's say you have a nice cup of coffee in front of you and you want to drink it, but the game wants you to make 100 iron plates. So, you go to an iron ore spot, farm for a while, go to your crafting bench, and craft some iron ingots, which you can then turn into iron plates to turn in. But if during this process you run out of any other raw materials, you have to run back and get some more ore. Now what you realize when you turn in your iron ores is that your coffee has gone cold. And this is where the game shines. This time, instead of mining the ore yourself, you place down a miner and connect it to a smelter, which turns the ore into ingots. And then you can put those ingots in a constructor that makes your iron plates without you having to craft them yourself. All you have to do is place the buildings down and drink your coffee. You did have to plan the position of the buildings, how the things got from one place to another, and how to power the buildings. But after all the hard work of setting up the system, you know you will not have to worry about the iron plates, at least for a while. This is what Satisfactory excels in, giving you the feeling of automating hard labor. Instead of you making everything by hand, the game gives you tools to make yourself an efficient factory that churns out parts at a steady pace for all your factory building needs so you can further automate more parts. And that's how you get on the loop. Making factories that power those factories, making better factories that make better parts from the parts produced by the previous factories, and then making more factories for more parts or more power. It's an endless cycle till you feel satisfied. The fact that the game is so amazing at making you feel good while doing nothing is because doing nothing is part of its core loop. You see, when I say doing nothing, I mean the player can stop interacting with the game and step back, doing whatever they want, and the game will still work. But most of the time, the player ends up thinking about the game and what and how to automate next. And this nothing turns into planning that you end up doing in either a notebook or in your head. And it is part of the game's loop, which goes like this. For now, let us focus on the planning of factory part of the loop and see where that happens. All the other parts of the loop happen in the game and you can see them on the screen, but the planning happens in your brain and you can do it anywhere. This makes the game playable anywhere. You can be at work while thinking about the perfect way to automate supercomputers with the right ratios and the correct logistics, and you are still in the game. You can be having dinner with your family, eating a nice pasta, while thinking about how to solve the issue of the bottleneck in your nuclear pasta site. You can be at the gym while thinking about how to use turbo fuel to make your next power plant. The game excels at making you constantly immersed in planning because that is one of the best aspects of it. By the time I finished Project Assembly, I had a notebook full of notes on power plant fuel ratios, byproduct disposal, drone battery usage charts, factory ratios, and so much more. A big portion of playing Satisfactory was not playing the game on my PC, but on my notebook and on the website that is linked in the description of it. And this is where the game separates itself from so many others out there because it makes planning its most important part. It makes it so that all your plans are achievable. There are more games out there that plan before you act, like Hitman. But if the plan fails, the game goes along and you have to then save scum or go along and wing it. With Satisfactory, however, the plans never fail. The factory doesn't explode if you mess up. There's no game over screen, and most of the time if you have a good enough plan, you can be assured that once the factory is built, you will have a steady supply of whatever it is you wanted in the first place. And that feeling is what drives the game. The feeling of efficient planning and efficient automation. Simply put, the game makes you feel smart. The planning and the building phases are what Mad Max Furiosa feels like. A slow and steady process that requires you to think. And watching the output belt filled is what Mad Max Fury Road feels like. One of the reasons why the game works so well is because it understands what it is. It sticks very close to its design pillars. I don't have Coffee Stain's design docs, but by the power of reverse engineering, I have deciphered that the game has at least 3 pillars. Automation through construction, progression through exploration, and a self-managed difficulty. Every item in the game can be automated if you wanted to do so. In my playthrough, I wanted to automate black powder, to further automate smokeless powder, to further automate nobelisks and ammo. The game didn't ask this of me. In fact, I could make all of these parts without automation at a crafting bench, as per my requirement. But this way, I had an unlimited supply of nobelisks and ammo, and there was one less thing I had to worry about making every time I set out to explore. And I explored quite a lot, because that is what the game wants you to do, to progress further and make your factories more efficient. You explore to find new places to build factories or to find new resource nodes. You also explore to gather hard disks, summer sloops, mercer spheres, and slugs, all of which help you in one way or another. And once you're done gathering, you bring all of it back to your base, and you can turn them into whatever resources you need yourself, or automate the process using a factory that sorts all of these things you collected and processes your hard-earned loot while you sip your coffee. It is amazing to see how well both of these aspects, or pillars of the game, interact with one another. Another one of the ways the game intertwines exploration with automation is with the use of hard drives and the MAM research tree. You need to go out and interact with the world to find new recipes that are way more efficient in making the parts you need. Finally, the game's difficulty is always in your hands. Now, this is not a novel concept. I mean, just look at recent games with difficulty sliders and how they let you manage their difficulty. But that way of managing it feels, for the lack of a better term, extrinsic. Satisfactory, however, takes a more intrinsic approach. The game has set milestones for you to accomplish, but it doesn't hold your hand by telling you how many parts per minute you need to make. It lets you choose how you want to approach solving the problem. If you want to make a factory that makes 20 supercomputers per minute, more power to you. If you want to put down some containers and hook them up to a manufacturer to make supercomputers, go for it. And if you want to scrap other objects in an awesome sink to get reward points to then buy some supercomputers, guess what? You can do that as well. There's no right answers. There's no right way. There's only the bar you set for yourself. This way of managing difficulty is very reminiscent of Dark Souls. Alright, I'm sorry. It's where you get to tune the difficulty of the game, not in menus, but in the game itself. And Satisfactory takes it a step further by making the game's difficulty be adjusted in the player's head in the planning phase. You can have an easy plan to make a simple factory that'll get the job done while you work on other projects, or make a hard plan to make a perfect looking factory that'll stroke your ego by working at 100% efficiency all the time, making more parts than you will ever need using the best alternate recipes. This self-defining difficulty ties all the other pillars of the game together like concrete. What you build and how far you explore it is always defined by you. This makes the game a perfect Zen experience or a hectic shooter depending on what you want at the time. There are also options in the game to turn off combat altogether if you want it, and I think that is because combat is not a core aspect of the game and only a pacing tool. The game knows that making a factory for an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 can eventually get a bit repetitive, and that is why the loop has exploration in it. Once you've built your amazing factory, now all you have to do is wait. Instead of stepping away, you could go to a random point on the map and explore for some summer sloops or mercer spheres or hard drives. And while doing so, you could also think about what to build next. The game's loop is made so that it gives the players time to think and sip their coffee. The building of a factory is often followed by a waiting period to finish the parts you want. The game lets you go out and find new places to make factories or outposts. It doesn't lock you in a state of either making factories or exploring. You decide what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how much of that thing you want to do. If you want longer build sessions, you could make a mega factory that'll have everything you will ever need in one place. Or if you want smaller build sessions with more time to explore, you could make modular factories that could be connected by a drone system. Everything is up to you. Finally, even with all the good pacing in the world, you can only do a game loop so many times without having a good reward system. And the game does have one. Every time you finish a tier or a milestone, the game gives you meaningful rewards till the very end. The excitement of what's on the horizon makes every bit of planning feel worth it. Every factory can have its own twist, either in logistics or power or planning or the recipes you used or how you manage the build itself. The game doesn't stop feeling fresh even after 200 hours. When you build your factory and you take a step back to see everything running on the land that you so willfully exploited, the trains coming in with raw materials, drones flying off with complex parts, machines working all the time and in sync, and all the belts full of parts, you get why doing nothing feels good. Because it feels good to look at all the hard work and the planning you did in action. And the game makes it look good too. The animations in this game are second to none. From building something new to looking at any of the machines or transport you hit this break. There is a level of satisfaction in it that not a lot of other games can provide.